Hello everyone, this is Desmond.
And this is Edgar.
We are attempting to learn new games. So our first game right now is Civ 5.
That's right, and I'd say I'm somewhat of an expert at this game. I've played it quite a bit, so this video will mostly be me teaching Desmond how to play Civ 5. So what we're playing right now, we're playing as Russia, and they have what you consider you consider one of the better civilizations in this game. They have a production bonus, meaning that they produce units, more like armies and buildings and everything you can produce much faster than most other civilizations. So what you want to start off doing here, Desmond, is finding a good place to settle your city. You'll see there that you're already along the coast. You'll see the river to your left, and you'll see the sea to your left and a river to your right. So you're in a great starting position. And what you want to do is move one unit to the south.
This unit to the south?
That's correct. Move your settler one unit to the south west, right there. That's correct.
Okay.
And then press B to settle your city. The reason you moved
B. Oh, okay. Wait, hold on. Yeah?
the reason you moved your settler is because you moved one unit closer to the gold there, so you'll have a production bonus early on. The reason you didn't settle on top of the gold immediately is so that you still have access to the sea.
Okay.
So now what you want to do is click on your city, Moscow,
Okay.
and you can go to Citizen Management
Citizen management.
over there on the right.
On the right here?
Yeah.
Okay.
And switch it to a production focus.
Production focus.
Okay. Now switch your city to one food, one production, and one gold tile.
Where?
Right there. Click on one of those tiles. That's right. That on the yeah.
Right here?
Yeah. So what you just did is you told your governor to work that tile. So
Okay.
now your city has one food, 5 production, and 5 gold per turn, as well as 4 science and 1 culture. So the reason you switched it to production focus is in the long run, this is going to help you as Russia produce a lot more units. So you don't have to keep min-maxing every tile. It's just gonna do it on its own. So now we can return to the map
Okay.
and do what's really one of the most important things, which is exploring. Go ahead and dismiss that information.
Okay.
So just choose a direction to go with but don't. So here's a tip here. Don't immediately move onto that hill. You can move onto a plains tile and still have one move left over. And if you do want to, you can move onto that hill. So move onto that plains tile. Okay, now move onto the hill. If
Okay.
you had previously moved on the hill, you wouldn't have gotten the
would've
free.
taken like 2 of my motion.
That's right.
things.
You would have immediately ended that warrior's movement. So that's just an easy tip, is that you have more vision when you
Go on a hill.
yeah. So now let's go ahead and choose our production there on the bottom right.
Wait, oops.
So the first thing you always want to produce, no matter what, is a scout, so that you know who's around you. And
How do I zoom in? Oh, okay.
yeah, there you go.
Alright. Choose region.
Can you click on the options
Option.
on the menu rather?
Oh, menu.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so right now we're on chieftain difficulty. So just so you know, this is not as difficult, and what I've done is I've also put the map on a small map with a large amount of civilizations. So once you build that scout and you explore more with your warrior, we should expect to see a lot more civilizations than you might normally see in a game, but just for demonstration purposes, we've done that. So now let's choose our research.
Alright.
So let's open the technology tree fully.
Okay.
So typically, because you're Russia, you're going to want horses online as soon as possible. So animal husbandry is a great first technology to research, so that you can have the benefits of Russia, which is 1 extra production from horses. So now we're ready to start our next turn.
Okay.
Something we should note here is that you have a luxury resource to your north. I believe that's cotton. And you also have three strategic resources to your east. You have marble, or I believe that's stone actually, cattle, and you also have wheat. So there's definitely a potential city to your east, but for now let's do some more scouting. Choose the direction for your warrior to go.
Okay.
Normally you want to end your turns on hills if you can, just because they offer the best vision.
What about if they're like...
Yeah, that's a wooded hill. A wooded hill still see, as you can see, you still see over
Okay.
regular woods as long as you're on a hill. So now we can go on to the next turn. Not as much to do this turn, as we've already chosen with the stuff to occur automatically.
What do these numbers mean? Is this like...
So that 13 right there tells you that your capital will grow to a population of 2 in 13 turns.
Okay.
And the number to the right there, 3, tells you that your scout will be produced in 3 turns. So
Okay.
something that you don't quite see that is still there is if you click on your city, that you see those pink tiles right there.
Yeah.
There's a 13 turns until your border grows. So that's a sort of a hidden thing that is very important to the game that not a lot of players initially realize. That number at the very top of your screen, that's your culture per turn. We only have 1, and in order to increase your chances of winning the game and sort of maximize benefits from social policies, you're going to want to increase your culture per turn. So if you go ahead and go to your building or return right here to change production, you can, let's not change the production, but just so you can see there's many things you can build here: a settler, a worker, a scout, a warrior, and a monument. So a monument is what we're going to build after the scout, just because, as I said, the culture is very important for this game to proceed. So for you to be a dominant civilization, you need to have a good culture output. So let's return to the map now and just keep that in mind. Go ahead and move your warrior to any desired tile.
Let's see, what if I go here and then here? Oh, I can't see over.
Yeah. So that's a common mistake is if you move into. Also, another problem with that move was that, as you'll notice, in order to move back across, you'll have to move across a river. So your turn will be immediately over once you move across that river. So I let you make that mistake just so we can, learn. But
Okay.
you don't really want to move across a river unless if you plan on moving back across it. Just because you lose an extra movement point doing that. So let's go ahead and go to the next turn.
Wait, so if I went, is it possible to get a person onto the mountain or no?
Only one civilization allows you to do that, and that's Carthage. So you can't, but Carthage can.
What kind of vision do I get?
Pretty much standard hill vision. You don't get any special vision from being on top of a mountain. And I believe in the most recent expansion of the game, if you produce a helicopter unit, which costs 1 aluminum to produce, any civilization can be on top of a mountain with a helicopter unit. But I'm not sure if that applies to this game.
Once you get to that kind of late game, doesn't it? Don't you basically have the whole map anyways?
That's correct. Well, not always. It depends on what difficulty you're playing and how large the map is.
Then just next turn it?
That's correct.
Okay. Alright.
And just choose anywhere for your warrior to go. I recommend going east.
East?
Yeah.
Okay. So
one thing that I do want to mention here before we go to the next turn is let's zoom out a little bit. So if you'll notice, to the north here, there are more flatter tiles. So your warrior, if you had chosen to go there, your warrior would have had a lot easier time moving. So normally, when you want to maximize the efficiency of vision seeking, or you want to see where your neighbors are and where you want to settle, you want to send your warrior to flatter locations such as the north, and you want to send your scout to the east where all the wooded stuff is, because a scout doesn't suffer the penalties of moving across a river or moving on top of a hill.
Okay.
So just for future reference, you're going to want to travel to flatter surfaces with warriors and the like.
Okay. Just hit next turn?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, now I recommend moving east just because you see there's a flat tile there and you don't... Oh, that's not what I meant. Oh well. Yeah, we could have gotten that. So what I was referring to was if you move to the east, directly east to that forest tile, you would have been... Oh, no, I had no idea about that, but you would have been next to a ruin. But what I was referring to was that there's a flat plain there, so you wouldn't have had to use both of your movement points in order to move to that location. Whereas, because you've moved across the river, now if you want to move back to that ancient ruins location,
I have to take 2 more turns.
Yeah, so as opposed to just 1, now it's 2.
Oh man.
That's okay. We're both learning. Well, you're learning.
Thank you.
Let's go ahead and go to the next turn. So now you have a scout. So what you're gonna want to do is split your vision, and you're gonna want to go north with this one. Not directly north, but sort of northeast.
Okay.
Okay, so you met Siam. So your first civilization. So what you're gonna want to do is consider the direction that he's coming from. let's go ahead and go back to the main game.
Goodbye.
Yes.
Goodbye.
So he's coming from the north, right?
Mhm.
Which means that he's going to have his cities there probably, or so what you want to do is scout the area between your land and his and try to see if you can see his lands so that you know where you want to settle. Because if you can beat him to a good settlement,
Mm-hmm.
chances are when the time comes, you're going to have a great advantage in the war. You're going to have a buffer city in between your capital and his. So let's go ahead and go to choose production, and we're going to choose a monument. Just because after one scout, now some people produce another scout, and but because the map is on small, I'd say just leave it with one scout.
Okay.
The monument, of course, will help you generate more culture. So let's go to that ancient ruins tile. Yeah, right there. And go to next turn.
What's that blue resource in the?
That's dice. That's another luxury resource. So something I've neglected to mention is luxury resources. There's a difference between the different resources in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Luxury resources offer you happiness, which is this counter right here.
Oh.
And what happens is happiness allows you to build more cities and generate culture and gold and science better. So if your civilization is unhappy, then you can't do anything. So when you settle a new city, you're going to want to settle around luxuries because they generate more happiness. The strategic resources just help you build or with production and stuff. They don't really help you with anything else other than specific units that need horses or something like that. So let's go north here and see if we can see Siam. So let's get that ancient ruins as well. Make sure to go to the flat plain first, and then get the ancient ruins. So you just in case there's extra vision to be had.
Okay. I discover a crudely drawn map outlines the surrounding area.
Okay, so that just helps us sort of figure out, the Mongols are to your east. So that map just revealed that information that we wouldn't have had previously. So now here's a tough decision for you to make. You don't know this, but typically when you play versus the Mongols, they're a very aggressive civilization.
Uh-huh.
They will guaranteed attack you at some point in this game.
Uh-huh.
So the issue you have to face is, do you want to forward settle them? Do you want to settle, because as we mentioned before, that die is a valuable resource. It increases your civilization's happiness.
Uh-huh.
But the issue is that he will take umbrage with the fact that you're settling so close to him, and he will almost certainly declare war on you. Do you think that, that depends on what kind of player you are. If you're a more aggressive player, then yeah, you should 100% settle that. That's the best move. But if you're more of a turtle kind of player, you want to sit back and relax and beat your enemy scientifically, then you might want to settle just slightly further west. But it all depends on your preference. For now, though, that's not an option. That's not a decision.
Here, oh, I know. There's something over here.
Yeah. So
City-state?
It appears that's a city-state. Yes.
Can you take city-states?
You can, but it's not recommended.
Oh.
I don't recommend it anyways. So let's go ahead and go to the next turn. We'll decide what to do with the Mongols afterwards.
Okay.
Okay, so you want to explore the territory to your north a little bit, so just decide where. It doesn't really matter. Typically you want to end on a hill though. Oh, perfect.
Wow.
Awesome. So
barbarians, okay.
it appears that he's going to beat you to that ancient ruins.
Uh-huh.
He's gonna get it before you, but that's not really that big of an issue. So let's go ahead and move right next to the barbarians, to the left.
Right there?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, and let's go ahead and go to the next turn.
Don't fight them immediately, or just
No, don't fight them at all. The reason I asked you to move there is just because it's the most efficient place to move. Like, you get the most vision out of there. But
okay.
There's a benefit to leaving that barbarian. You can just move if you want. There's a great benefit to leaving that barbarian camp open. It's closer to his capital, so they're more likely to attack him.
Okay.
And make his life harder.
Then just more.
Yeah, move north with that. Awesome. Okay, so there's definitely, you're gonna want to settle a city there probably.
There?
Not directly on there, but somewhere around there. There's many strategic resources. There's 2 cows. I believe that's cotton, and then you also have this stone to the
would this be good, or would the river be better?
Always the river,
Okay.
because it gives you a defensive bonus if he's attacking with melee. So where your warrior is now,
Mm-hmm.
if you settle a city 1 tile to the west of that, across the river,
Mm-hmm.
if he's attacking with his warrior that city, he'll have a huge penalty for attacking over a river. So that's typically, you want to settle in between a river, and you want the river to be in between you and your enemy.
Okay. So next turn.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, so now you have animal husbandry. This is also going to affect where you settle your cities. Let's take a look at your capital and see if there are any horses nearby. There are, okay. So now your culture, because there's a strategic resource there, it will if you recall, before there were 3 possible tiles that would be expanding to, but now there's only 1 because horses are the strategic resource. So we can just leave it now. We can leave the city. It's going to go to where we want it, which is the horses, and that's going to be a huge boost for us as opposed to the other civilizations. Let's go ahead and move on to science. Let's choose a research.
Choose research, okay.
Okay, so now we're going to want to get pottery because it unlocks the granary building, which is going to help us hugely with food production.
Oh, okay.
As opposed to regular production.
Wait, I could have just hit it there, couldn't I?
Yes.
Right.
You can click here or there. It's in either one. Yeah.
Pottery. Okay. Done.
Okay, now you can explore whatever direction you want with your scout. I recommend east, but it doesn't really matter, I don't think.
Cool. What did I see? What is this?
That's sugar. Yeah, that's another luxury resource. So if you'll notice, that dye that dye is unique. You don't have that in your empire, but that cotton right there, that directly to the north of the dye, you already have that within your city's reach. So if it was just the cotton, I wouldn't recommend settling there. But because it's a dye, there's a dye there, and there's also wheat to the west of that dye, it's worth settling just because you get an extra luxury resource. But if it was just the cotton, it's not worth it because you already have some in your capital, so you don't get the extra happiness. Okay. So let's go ahead and move on.
Where should I put this?
Oh, well, you want to get the ruins, yeah.
Okay. Just like straight to the...
Yeah, straight to the ruins.
Okay. 50 gold.
Okay, that's a pretty good thing to get. Okay, so now we can go on to the next turn.
Wait, every research I've done, have I been spending gold?
No, research automatically happens, and you've been spending the science that you get per turn.
Oh, okay.
So you get science per turn based on the amount of citizens you get. I believe every 2 citizens is equal to 1 science per turn. Okay. And you can increase that with libraries, universities, and the like. So let's go ahead and just explore a little bit more.
Then
I have some information that may
Yeah.
be of use.
Is with any enemies out of control.
Yeah, well, I was gonna focus on that more when we get to actual combat. For now, we can just focus on the basics. Move to the east, across the river. On there would be better, cause.
Okay.
Okay, so you've just discovered another luxury resource, one worth settling, in my opinion. I believe those are furs. No, to the east there. Yeah, furs. Okay, so. That luxury right there is a unique luxury. You don't have that luxury. It's going to be it's going to be a pretty good increase to your nation's happiness. So let's just go to next turn and scout more to make sure that's worth settling.
Okay.
Because sometimes there's another luxury resource, but the area around it is so crappy, or there's so many civs next to it that it's really not worth settling.
So like something like this, if I were to put a tile there, like a city there, does that mean like I have a port here and a port here?
Yes, that's how it works. And those are actually called canal cities by the sort of the civ community, and those are some of the best and most valuable cities militarily speaking, because because in the mid game when you get navies, you'll have a huge advantage compared to other nations if you have a canal city. The less travel time means faster military. Fighting, more units getting to the enemy faster means you're more likely to win a war.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and just keep exploring.
Oh, wait, okay.
Oh, that's rough.
What did I do?
You move them right next to each other, which is always probably one of the worst moves you can make. You don't ever want your 2 exploring units next to each other because that means you're wasting time. But that's fine. Yeah. So this is actually a good time to...
The cons of playing on trackpad.
Yeah.
Alright.
Alright, let's go next turn.
Next turn.
So it really doesn't matter that much because around this time you want to bring your warrior back to your capital. If you recall, there were barbarians to the east of your city.
Yeah.
So around this time you want to bring your warrior back just to make sure you're defending your lands.
And then like going through this area is harder, right? Usually?
Normally, yes, but because you were going to end your turn on there, it wouldn't really matter. If you start your turn on a forest, you can still move onto a grassland and only take 1 turn. It doesn't matter what tile you're on, it matters what tile you're moving to.
Okay.
Okay, let's go to next turn.
Okay. Next
All right, so you should be getting yeah, there we go. There's a policy now. These are social policies, and these are some of the most important things in the game. So so there's 3 tenets you can adopt here. You can adopt tradition, which is for smaller empires, but it's cultural based. Liberty, which is for larger empires, and you can get rapid expansion. Or you can go honor, and you can get an awesome army. Because we're on a lower difficulty, it's easier to go liberty, but normally you would go tradition just for the culture. But we could go liberty or tradition. Okay, you've chosen liberty. So what you're hovering over right now, or what you were hovering over, collective rule, that's the first thing we're going to get. And we're going to get that in about 5 turns. So that basically lets you build settlers really quickly, and that's sort of your bread and butter in the lower difficulty games. Is you're going to want to settle cities and make armies to defend those cities, and that's going to hugely boost your science and your culture and all that. So let's just for now choose a production. Go ahead and move to the east with that. Oh, perfect. Okay, so and move your warrior. Let's produce a worker.
A worker? Okay.
Yeah, so we can improve those horses. Now, really quick, go back to Moscow. If you remember, you had a tile 1, 1, and 1.
Yeah.
Now that we've expanded to the horses, you have a much better tile. So
if I click like that.
And if you'll notice, your
production's better.
Your production, your food, and everything else is going to be way better because of that. Because the more citizens you have, the more you can work on and stuff like that. Okay. So let's go ahead and just have a worker ready, and go ahead and click on show queue. Okay, now let's add to queue.
Add to queue.
Yeah, and we're gonna want probably another worker after that.
Okay.
Okay, now return to map.
All right.
And let's go ahead and move our units.
All right. Where do I want to go? Do I want to head more south? Or no, back to the capital?
Yeah, back to the capital.
All right, cool. Next turn?
Yep.
Okay.
All right, well, let's get that ancient ruins. Oh, that's amazing. Okay, so go back to your capital.
They settled in one of my cities.
Yeah, so you just increased the 2 population, and on the same turn, you got a population ruin, which means you immediately went to 3. So you just grew 2 populations in 1 turns, which is very, very good luck. So now let's go back to Moscow.
Okay.
So we have a citizen working that hill tile and a citizen working that your governor working that gold tile. So we can return to map now. No, we can't actually. If you'll notice here, your city is starving.
Oh, okay.
So we're gonna want to move both of these over to food tiles.
Wait, oops. Oh.
Now you're stagnation. You're in stagnation, which means your city's not gonna grow, but it's also not gonna fall in growth. So that's why we're building a worker right now, because you want to be able to get more food.
Land?
Yes.
Okay.
So we can go ahead and return the map now.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and go south and explore the area that you were previously mentioning.
Okay. Like the mountains? Okay.
There might be a new city to settle, and if not, it's still worth checking out.
Okay. Next turn. Please wait. Where should I go? North or?
Up to you. When you're exploring, it's really hard to tell where you should go.
What is that? There's something there. Like on the map, it's like black.
Oh, that means that there's probably a city-state there that you missed.
Oh. Should have headed south then.
Oh, well,
Whatever.
it's too late now.
Right, so I just stay around this area?
You can go south, actually.
Okay. Here better, or?
Yeah, there's better.
Okay. Next turn. Pottery's gonna be my next turn?
Yes.
Okay.
So now you can build a granary. So what you're gonna want to do is, once you finish telling your units where, don't go south. You already went there. You'd be wasting. Go move on that hill.
I'm committed.
Yeah.
Alright, and then this one here?
No, to the south. Yeah, there you go.
Okay. Oh,
perfect.
Wow. Okay.
Okay. So now let's choose our research wisely here.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see.